You're joking, aren't you? It's the Teesside Chef. The ultimate fakeaway Chinese chicken curry, and I'll do this very calmly for you here, while oversharing private and personal information as usual, but never mind that for now, because I think with a lot of Chinese recipe videos, everything just goes crackers, doesn't it, as the chefs cook at 1,000,000 miles an hour? But we're not looking to score points for artistic impression here. We're not Torval and Dean, we're just making a curry, aren't we? I sliced 300 grams of chicken breast lengthways before slicing against the grain of the meat to ultimately give us the most tender chicken, which I'll put into a bowl and marinate for a bit, with a tablespoon of soy sauce, a good pinch of salt and MSG, a itty-bitty bit of black pepper, half a teaspoon of curry powder, half a teaspoon of chicken stock powder, a heaped teaspoon of cornstarch with a tablespoon of water, and I'll finish off with a splash of a neutral oil, which will stop the chicken sticking together when we cook it later on, and I'll give that a stir, and that can sit for a bit while we crack on with the curry. Starting with a medium onion, and again, we're not looking to impress any judges here, so just chop it coarsely, and I cried a little while chopping this onion, just like I did as a child when Torval and Dean won the ice dancing Olympic gold medal in Sarajevo in 1984. I've never told anybody this, of course, but I'm comfortable enough with my masculinity to be able to admit it now. Don't listen to tits like Andrew Tate for ideas of how to be a man, fellas. Watch some ice dancing and have a little cry. Link in the description for that one. I've cooked the onion for a few minutes on a medium heat in butter, which will probably lose me some technical merit marks with you lot, but gives the best flavour in my opinion. I have 250 millilitres of chicken stock, and half of that can go in the pan now to chill the pan out. I've also knocked the heat down before adding the spices, a generous half a teaspoon of curry powder and turmeric, a generous 1.5 teaspoons of Chinese five spice, a quarter of a teaspoon each of cumin and ginger powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a little pinch of pepper, a half a teaspoon of MSG, half a teaspoon of chili powder for a little kick, a generous half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of sugar to balance the flavours, a teaspoon of white vinegar or similar, a tablespoon of soy sauce, and 2 to 3 cloves of minced garlic. And I'm going to cook that lot gently for a couple of minutes, and during those couple of minutes the spices will dissolve in the butter and the stock will prevent burning, so I've covered all bases here, I feel. The rest of the stock can go in now, and I'll put the heat back up to medium, and I like to add 50 grams of coconut milk now, just to give a little coconutty fragrance that I reckon adds a real flourish to the flavour of this curry, but you can leave this out if you don't have coconut milk. And now the heat's back up, I'll add in a cornstarch slurry, 25 grams of cornstarch stirred well into 50 millilitres of cold water, and that will thicken the curry up significantly. And as your curry becomes thick and gloopy, that's a sign to turn the heat back down and add in some water until you reach your desired consistency while stirring all the time. And since we're sharing, it wasn't just ice dancing that got me blubbing when I was a child. I also cried my eyes out when Dennis Taylor won the 1985 World Snooker Championships. I don't know if it was because of the unbelievable tension or just because it was after midnight on a school night, but when he potted that final black, the floodgates just opened. Hey, I bet some of you lot remember that one. Anywho, I have a hot pan which has been liberally oiled, and I'm going to cook the marinated chicken now until it's fully cooked. And this shouldn't take too long if you sliced it quite thin like I did. Now, because I wanted this recipe to be as quick as possible, I let the chicken marinate while preparing the curry. What you'll normally see is the chicken being cooked first and then set to one side while anything else is cooked in the sticky caramelised chicken pan. But I did it the other way around to save time, and as I add the curry back into the pan here, we're still getting all those sticky caramelised singed bits, so I don't feel like we've missed out really. And I'll lob in a couple of handfuls of frozen peas at this juncture, because they'll add a bit of colour and a hint of sweetness and freshness. And sometimes if I'm watching a replay of Torval and Dean's Bolero ice dance routine, I pretend that the lump in my throat is a little pea that got lodged in there, so these work on multiple levels really. And if you find your curry thickening up too much as the peas finish cooking, you can add a little bit more water in there, a taste test to determine if the seasoning works for you, and then go in with a generous glug of sesame oil to finish. Now, I've made this curry relatively mild to try and suit as many tastes as possible, while also making it easy to adjust at the end, a final sprinkle of chilli flakes for me. And I'll leave it to Alan Weeks to let you all know if this curry receives top marks.
It's right across the board. That's it. What a marvellous, marvellous set of marks.
Take